welcome to Port Connects, the Port Jervis Where Are They Now alumni podcast. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the podcast and all things Port Jervis, and I am excited to introduce and bring our guest into today's show, class of 92, Dr. Mouhab Rizkallah. Dr. Mo, welcome to the program.
Class of 92, this is my 92 yearbook. Look how far we've come.
Class of 92. I know many of your friends from that group will be watching. Doc, it is nice to connect with you and nice to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's a privilege to be here.
Yeah, it's a privilege to have you on. We are going to get to know Doc over the show here, but doing incredible things. He's up in Massachusetts now. He's a dentist. He's an orthodontist. He's an advocate. And it started in Egypt for a short time for you. You emigrated here, landed in Port Jervis. And most recently, Doc, a lot of people started reaching out to me. There was an article in the paper about some of the amazing things that you were doing in the field of dentistry. And everyone was saying, hey, you gotta meet Dr. Mo, and here you are. So let's get started with your story here in Port Jervis. You grew up in Port Jervis schools here. And why don't we start there, Doc?
Yeah, so I started third grade in Port Jervis. We originally landed in New Jersey.
Okay.
My father was a mechanical engineer, and we ended up moving into the Port Jervis area because my father bought a small motel called the Deerdale Motel when I was in third grade, and then I went from third grade to my senior year in Port Jervis High School. And I got to tell you, Port Jervis is special. And you probably saw in that article that you just pointed out that, I said, you can't get the Port Jervis out of me. It's a big part of my identity. And I think that all the time, because, and I'll tell you why. Port Jervis, for anybody who's listening and has Port Jervis pride, Port Jervis creates blue collar grit, an excellent education, and it prepares you for anything. And I've been through a lot in the last 32 years.
And Doc, been through a lot. You've achieved a ton. Your academics, your success in school has led to success outside of school, but valedictorian at business school, valedictorian biology school, valedictorian in dental school, and now on to being an orthodontist. Tell me about those academic achievements. Was school something that came easy to you? Were you in the library on Friday nights studying away? Tell me about some of these achievements here.
Well, so that's interesting because, I should tell you that I was not on the honor roll at Port Jervis. I was an extraordinarily ordinary kid. Okay, if I can put it that way. But, even as an ordinary kid in Port Jervis, Port Jervis seeds in you amazing things, and what you learn in the Port Jervis, whether it's the school or just the community, you have seeds planted in you that germinate when you need them. And so, while I wasn't a particularly academic kid, when I went to college, I got super serious. Okay, and so I went to a business school, and in that business school, I learned how to work very hard, and I learned how to learn. At that higher level. And I found that I was equipped largely, again, due to the academic structure that I got in Port Jervis and the tenacity and resilience I learned in Port Jervis. I found myself really top of my class. And so there you go, valedictorian. And then I did a second degree in a completely different field, right? Biology, right? Completely different field, right? Because at that point, I decided I wanted to become an orthodontist. At the time, I started my education. I didn't know what I wanted to become. And here's my message to kids who don't know what they want to become. Go into something that broadens your horizons, like business. You can learn so much in business that you can apply in just about every area of life. So if you don't know what you want to do, go into business. And then, for me, I then narrowed my scope into, at some point, I realized I wanted to be an orthodontist. And I knew that my avenue to get there was going to be a science program. And so I went into biology, but I didn't just go into it. I lived it. So yeah, I was wasn't a party kid. I enjoyed myself, but I wasn't a party kid. I really made the most of the hardworking dollars that my parents put behind me in my education. So yeah, valedictorian in my class there. Very proud to be able to say that. And again, what equipped me? Port Jervis, the Port Jervis school system. And then, going into, then I got an orthodontist, then I went to dental school, valedictorian in that. Why was I valedictorian in dental school? I'll tell you why. It's not just that I was studious, it's that I was good with my hands. Why was I good with my hands? Because I come from a community that we work with our hands, right? So this is not a silver spoon home. The Port Jervis home is not a silver spoon home. At least it wasn't for me, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but by and large, I think on average, that's the cool thing about our community of Port Jervis.
Doc, there's a number of people watching live. I'd love to hear from you. If you were one of Doc's classmates, if you're a current student or a community member, say hello in the chat. It's one of the cool aspects of the show, and we're happy to connect Dr. Rizkallah with you. Doc, you referenced Port Jervis a number of times already today, as also in these magazines and journals and articles, covers of magazines, awards, you continue to reference Port, and we are so honored. Were there some specific people or any specific experiences that stood out to you that really helped impact you?
Oh yeah, it's interesting because I just had my 30-year reunion about 2 years ago, and what a joy it was! What a joy it was to see my classmates. I want to tell you one of the things I enjoyed the most about seeing my classmates was the depth of character in that group. And I'm not saying that for this show. I'm saying it really. That's cool to know that we all sort of separated 32 years ago, but when we came back together, the depth of character of that group is phenomenal. And so I actually brought to that 30-year reunion my yearbook, and I've spent some time looking through it, and in preparation for this conversation, I spent some time, and I actually tabbed some pages even, on that page. So there's Mr. Witherow, right? So Mr. Witherow recently passed away. Okay?
Yes.
Respect to Bob Witherow. Okay. And below that is actually my wife. In the middle here was the chairman of the school board, and that's Bob Hamilton. My wife's a Hamilton. That was her grandfather. Right?
Oh, wow.
So it's really, and I could go on. I've got Mr. Romeo, Debbie Lamberg, Mrs. Manfredo, Onifrey, Alice Lenahan. My daughter's name is Alice. I mean, Debbie Casera was not my teacher, but she taught my brother, and man, he loved her. My brother was 1 year older than me. Let me keep going. Steve Hull, great science teacher. Bill Hubbard, great math teacher, and he really believed in me. Carol Lamoureux. These people, honestly, George Rollman, what an icon, right? I went to school with his son, Brian Rollman, Mr. Birmingham, Kevin Birmingham. I could just go on and on, but the reality is, Michael Pacer, right? A music teacher. I got to tell you, if I could meet all of them face to face, I would just say thank you, and I'm sorry. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was a little irritating. Okay? but thank you for being patient with your kids, knowing that they're just developing, and you're nurturing into them, and you're pouring into them, and making them the best that they can be, even though they're not turning around and knowing to say thank you for the investment, because it's just so special. I also have to say, and I'm sorry, I got to say this. I also had great youth leaders. So I was in a Christian youth group, and I had 4 particular youth leaders. One just passed away, Bill Snyder. I went down to his funeral, December 29th, just recently. Debbie Snyder, also amazing. Paul and Jan Butler. They were from the Assemblies of God Church right near my house on Route 6. These are amazing people. And then I had my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, who are my current mother and father-in-law. Shelley Whitley is the principal of New Life Christian Fellowship, a wonderful little school in Matamoros. And Skip Whitley is a pastor and a wonderful father-in-law to me. I mean, I married my high school sweetheart. So, Laura and I have been together well over 30 years. So it's pretty special stuff.
Beautiful story and a beautiful celebration of Port Jervis. You mentioned a lot of icons there.
Icons, yes.
Hall of Fame and
Yes.
Tremendous impact. Your classmates watching, Miss Stefano now. I know you were good friends with her in school, and again, excited to have you on. Doc, you've gone on to do some great things here. I mean, dentistry, orthodontry, but you're really having an impact. The article, again, that was in the paper really goes into, but you've become the most influential person in dentistry, Person of the Year by Dentistry Today, getting a number of awards for the work you're doing, not only in your offices, but also out in the field of medical insurance and all of that. Tell us that journey about doing more, going outside the office and some of these amazing accomplishments.
So that's an amazing story, I have to say. It's actually kind of a Netflix series, and anybody who actually knows my story would say, yes, it is a Netflix series. It's got a sinister component to it. It's got a hero component to it. It's got a battle that goes up and down component to it. But if I could sort of, if I was going to give it some kind of a name, I mean, you got a Port Jervis kid who tames a $200 billion insurance industry. That's what happened. Okay, that's crazy. Like I say it, you don't know exactly what I'm talking about. That's what happened. Port Jervis kid tames a $200 billion insurance industry. And how's that happen? Well, so here's what happened. I didn't plan to become the most influential person in dentistry or to get these accolades. I didn't plan to do this. I actually was an unwilling martyr in a way, right? What happened was, I worked so hard to become the best that I could be and really learned what quality care was in my field. And then I thought I would just come out, and naively, I thought I would just be able to deliver quality care, right? Because that's what doctors can do, right? But they can't. Andrew, they can't. What ends up happening is that those doctors become gears for insurance companies, and they just control us in their machine, right? And doctors get very frustrated because they're saying, I don't want to do that. Okay, that's not in the best interest of my patient. But you're just a gear in a machine and you can't fight it, except that you can't take a Port Jervis out of me. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I'm coming for you. And it started with I started to get frustrated after I graduated from my orthodontic certificate, and I started writing letters to these insurance companies saying, I don't know if you realize, but what your policy does not make any sense because of this, right? Because I was naive. I just was trying to appeal to their sense of reasoning, right? And then they ignored me. And so then I started saying, okay, well, I'm going to have an attorney write them letters. Okay. Paid an attorney. They ignored me. And then I said, I'm threatening you. I'm going to sue you on behalf of a class action lawsuit for my patients who you're underserving, right? And I sue them and I'd win, right? And then I'd say, yeah, I'm great. I win, right? Except that then they would comply with that, but then they would shift something over here, which makes that sort of moot, right? I sued them 4 times, Andrew, won 4 times.
Wow.
And what I found repeatedly was that they would just move the goalpost a little bit, right? So that you're basically, where you thought you were scoring for your patients, you're not scoring anymore, right? So then I realized at some point, the only way that I'm going to solve this problem where I'm not chasing my tail with lawsuits is to create a law. So I sat at this desk and I wrote a law that regulates dental insurance companies so that they must do what medical insurance companies already do, okay? And I said, so medical insurance right now in the entire country must pay at least 80 to 85%, depending on the plan, 80 to 85% of all premiums have to go toward patient care, okay? It's a good number. It leaves them with 20%. Now, 20% of billions of dollars is a massive number, okay? But in dentistry, nowhere in the nation until I made my law, nowhere in the nation did that exist or apply for dental insurance. And I was like, this makes no sense. I need to solve this, chasing my tail problem for patients. And so I did. I wrote a law, but I'm not a legislator, right? So how did I get that law done? I took the law and I put it into a voter ballot, and it cost me millions of dollars to do this. I made a voter ballot in Massachusetts, and it won by an unprecedented 72%. 72% yes. Holy cow. That's
Wow.
cool. And so all of a sudden, now every state in the nation is working to adopt this. And I expect in the next few years, the entire nation will have it. And I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm doing that. That's what I did in private insurance, but I'm coming for Medicaid. Okay. Because those kids matter. And so this is where I'm at. It's a crazy life. And so the dental community has sort of, embraced me as, someone who has the right compass, and they're following my compass. That's great. Let's do it.
Amen. We applaud you here, Doc. Did it ever on this journey become too much? Did it become overwhelming? Did you ever kind of say, all right, well, let me just keep going to my office and treating my patients and kind of I'll just leave that alone? Did it ever become too much?
It's too much every day. I won't lie to you. I don't live a comfortable life. I could choose that any moment. I could choose that for myself to live a very comfortable life. I could retire now and be all set. Okay. But I didn't make that choice in my life to live a comfortable life. I actually was raised with purpose. And anybody who knows that's such a precious word to me, purpose. I live with purpose. So is it overwhelming? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. Would I do it over again? Yes. Am I going to continue it until the day I die? That's where I'm at.
And Doc, some of this purpose, does it come from the experience of the motel here that your family helped serve? If the motel actually became a homeless shelter and you really saw people in need, you saw people who needed help, advocates. And did that experience as a youngster now turn into some of the work you're doing?
You ask a very special question. And when my answer is heartfelt, okay, Andrew, let me tell you something. What we do in our world is we say things like equality. We say the word, right? And it's a wonderful virtue signal. Like we say, we are all equal. Great. Okay. But if you ask someone, why are we equal? You're going to stun them a little bit with how do you answer this question? Okay. So let me say to you, when you're raised with humanity of all types, okay, you really start to see people as humans, okay? Now, you've got all sorts of different types, right? You've got colors, genders, backgrounds, you name it, right? Intelligence levels, you've got it all of it, okay? Athletic abilities, we're all different, okay? But I'll tell you something, whether it be formative seeds at the motels, okay, or my education in biology, which I was top of my class in all these science curriculums, whether it be the biology or the dentistry or orthodontics or whatever. You know what I learned in the sciences? We are equal based on our genetics. Actually, our body plans are equal, and here's something special, okay? So I brought another book. You probably don't recognize it because it's over 30 years old. This was my high school biology book. What's it say? My name's in this book, okay? Biology, the study of life.
Wow.
In the last 32 years, I've been studying life, but I haven't been just studying it by living it. I've been studying it by literally studying it on a formal level, right? Through biology, my biology curriculum, dental curriculum, orthodontic curriculum. I'm an orthodontist and dental facial orthopedist, right? You get so much knowledge, okay? We're equal because we are actually designed. There's this story out there that most people believe that we're random, and we're just a random concoction of molecules that happen to occur over billions of years. But actually, that's not what the science shows. The science actually shows we are exquisitely organized. Exquisitely, we're organized not just on a cellular level, but even on like two different organisms: a plant and an animal. Right? Plants give off oxygen, animals need it. Animals give off carbon dioxide, plants need it. We're connected on an interorganism kingdom level, right? We've got amazing cells, we've got amazing organs, systems of organs, organisms. We've got males and females that we couldn't last one generation without each other. Okay, we'd die out. This occurs in every species. What's my point? My point is, we're so exquisitely designed that the inference is that we have a designer. When you recognize that you have a designer, you start to answer that question of equality. Why are we equal? We're equal because we're designed equal. We don't give equality because we say it with our mouth. We are equal because we are born that way. That's a deeper answer than you may have expected. But the next time someone asks you, do you believe in equality? I hope you remember what I just said. The science screams we are equal. It's in our body plans, it's in our DNA.
That's a beautiful answer there, Doc, for sure. If your father had bought the Marriott, you might have gotten a different clientele coming in. But again, being around the people and the environment there growing up, you clearly are looking to help the underserved. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and that's a beautiful thing. We applaud you here, Doc. And if we could help you on your journey here in Port Jervis, we'd like to do that. How does it become a federal law? What are the next steps?
Oh, so I have that designed out. So that particular law, again, that 83% law, right now only exists in Massachusetts. The American Dental Association has made it their North Star. Okay, in fact, they've declared it really to be their North Star of what they want to accomplish in the next few years, as well as the other counterpart that I'm working on, which is the Medicaid, enforcing Medicaid provisions for oral health and for underprivileged children. They've made both of those their goal in the next few years. But specifically, you're asking a question of how exactly do you create federal law? And the answer is it's a technical process of of actually taking one word out of the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act right now requires this percentage of every health insurance policy and health insurance plan. But it has one exception, has two exceptions actually, has the exception of dental and vision. If I am able to go in and take out dental, the Affordable Care Act now covers it. Right. So that's actually, so I've got that all sort of planned out. But what I want to do is wait for 2 years. That's my plan. Is I have a 2-year plan to get all the reporting that comes out of the Massachusetts change, the Massachusetts law, to show to federal legislators, this is what happened after we did this, and this is why it should be implemented. So I've got a whole strategy laid out for that.
We salute you here. Again, a number of people watching live. Again, please jump in the comments, say hello. Certainly, if you're one of Dr. Mo's classmates or former teachers, I know Miss Cassara come running to me with this article saying, you got to meet him, you got to have him on. And again, we're honored. And just that you referenced Port Jervis so many times in these national magazines, to go back to your upbringing here. Did you have any setbacks or disappointments while you were here, Doc? Did you not make a team? You said you were extraordinarily ordinary, but was there anything that that you didn't achieve that helped you, again, get that grit, get working towards where you are?
I got to tell you, I wouldn't change a thing. When you say setbacks, let me tell you some disappointments that occurred when I was a kid. Okay. So when I was a kid, my parents made us work in the motels. Okay. So we didn't get to be really in sports. Not that I was particularly sporty, because I wasn't, but I wanted to be, to at least try out. Okay. I was not a bad basketball player. I wasn't as good as these other guys, like, the Michael McCooeys and Donnie Santiago's. Yes, I called you out. The Bill Van Dyke. We recently lost Bill Van Dyke in a drowning. Love Bill Van Dyke. And anybody who's in my class knows, love Bill Van Dyke. Bill, wherever you are, I love you, man. But the point is that, we worked in the motels and we mowed the lawn and cleaned rooms and whatever. But again, at the time, it was a little bit disappointing that you didn't have the opportunity to do other things, but I wouldn't change a thing, because it's actually turned into what has made me more capable. So no, there is nothing about my experience that I don't take away as a growth experience. Nothing.
Beautifully said, Doc. Let me ask you this. My father owned the pharmacy. We grew up in an interesting environment, Staten Island, and they provided for us. And here I have my young children, and I'm fighting with them to go mow the lawn and do these chores that we did as kids, which gave us the ability to now go out and work hard. how do we as parents take that back, even though we're capable of providing for our kids? They don't have to work, they don't have to do this, but it's those values, it's that grit. How do we as parents instill that in our own children to get these characteristics in them later in life?
That is the quintessential generational challenge, right?
Yeah.
And this is true of every class. Every one of the classes that has graduated Port Jervis at some point deals with this question. Okay. And it's not getting easier. I think it's getting harder. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have some ideas. Okay. They're a little random because I wasn't really thinking that you'd ask me a question like that. But
yeah,
let me tell you some of my parenting thoughts. Okay. Early on, I realized people become what you encourage them to be, and not what you nag them to be. Okay. So it doesn't occur by saying, you never do this, you never do that. Okay. Those are not words that will ever serve your children. Okay. What I have found is that when my kid does something well, make sure you explain to them how special that is. Okay. So giving it, let me give it to you at a very elementary level. Okay. So I have 4 kids, 4 great kids. Okay. If my kid as a youngster would come to me with a colored page, okay, and they're coloring, and they're not good at coloring, right? And they're coloring all outside the lines, okay? I could say to them, you're coloring outside the lines. Stop doing that. Color inside the lines. Or I could say to them, you see over here where you colored inside the line? Yeah, that was awesome. You see, now that child, once you just say that, don't even pretend you didn't even see that other stuff, okay? Once you just say that, that child has a desire to serve you and to please you. That's in our innate being, right? That child's going to come back to that next coloring page. Hey, Dad, see how well I did inside that line? Now, that's a simple conversation, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change at any age, even my age, okay? When you encourage people in what you see in them, they shine in those areas. And really, if you are going to take the time to say something like, you're doing that wrong or you're bad, that has to be so rare. So that's the first answer to the question. The second answer to the question is, it's your duty and it's hard work to challenge your kids. Okay. And they're going to whine. Okay. But when they have achieved it, they're going to feel glorious about it. And so attaching awards and rewards to accomplishments. They may be baby steps, they may be large steps. I'll give you a silly one. My 12-year-old the other day, he couldn't whistle. I know this is silly, right? And I just don't want a kid that can't whistle. I'm returning you, okay? Of course, I would never say this, but I said to him, Nathan, you've got 1 week to learn how to whistle. Okay, you've got 1 week. And if you don't learn how to whistle in one week, I'm just going to take away your tech until you're serious enough that you're going to learn how to whistle. And Nathan, I assure you, within 6 hours of you trying to whistle, you're going to learn how to whistle. He learned how to whistle within about a day. Okay, but he was whining initially. So these are silly concepts, but they're the same. But they're true on these joking levels as they are on more serious levels. Is that you got to challenge your kids, and you've got to teach them by telling them when they're in the lines, don't overlook that opportunity. It's an opportunity.
Another beautiful answer there. Again, going to the science of life, right? That connection with the heart and the brain. Beautiful. Your friend Shelly Whitley gives you a shout out here. Again, if you're watching, jump in the show live. This is an incredible Port pride in action to take this on the national level. Again, really impressed, really proud of you, Doc.
Well, thank you.
And that you continue to recognize us. A lot of kids watch the podcast here, Doc, a lot of our science classes. What kind of wisdom would you offer to maybe a youngster who's saying, hey, I'd like to become a dentist, or I want to go into the field of orthodontics?
So I think anybody who's listening to this, whether you're going to that field or a different field, here's what I want to make sure you're clear on. You are in such fertile ground, in the Port Jervis community and in New York. Okay. I am a product of the SUNY systems. The SUNY programs are incredible. They're incredible. And as a New York resident, they're so inexpensive. You get so much benefit for so little cost compared to if you go somewhere else. So please hear me when I say this. SUNY programs, awesome. I went to SUNY Buffalo for my management school, business school. I went to SUNY Buffalo also for my biology degree. And then I went to SUNY Stony Brook, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best dental school in the country.
Wow.
Awesome. Okay, it's awesome. And that's on Long Island. The SUNY programs, focus on them. And now, as far as what if you want to go into dentistry or into the sciences, it depends on what area you want to go into. But no matter what, there are 4 dental schools in your state. You can go there, right? So Columbia, NYU, Stony Brook. I think there's 5 now, actually. Buffalo. You have so much opportunity if you want to go into that area. And each one of those programs has an orthodontic program. And I don't know that there's another state that has more dental schools actually when I think about it. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in that area.
Your Bills missed another field goal the other night. You must have been feeling that.
I'm not a Bills fan. I used to be a Bills fan. When I lived in Buffalo, here's the thing. I've always teased about being a bandwagon fan. It's not something you should be proud of. I'm always a Port Jervis fan. You can't get the Port Jervis out of me. But when I was in Buffalo, I was a Bills fan. And when I came to Boston, I'm a Patriots fan. My wife is still a Yankees fan. I'm kind of like in my Red Sox and my Yankees. I don't know.
They have a little relationship there.
They do. A little bit, right?
Yeah. Doc, was there something that maybe Port schools that you wish maybe you were a little more prepared for? You really shared that you kind of turned it on at Buffalo. You became a student. What was something maybe that we could have been doing in the schools that would have reached you earlier and made that light bulb come on?
I'm going to change your question a little bit because if you don't mind, because you really bring a great point up. First of all, the short answer to your question is nothing. The Port Jervis school system was so good for me. Now it's different for everyone, okay? But I think my message would be to anyone: Port Jervis makes available to you what you want out of it. What you can take out of the Port Jervis school system is excellent education and grit, okay? Everyone, it's available to everyone, okay? And that's what I got, I feel like, the most out of it. But here's what I do want to say, which is me changing your question a little bit. There was a mock trial. I don't know if you guys still have mock trial, okay?
We do have mock trial.
Let me tell you something. It frustrates me that every school doesn't have mock trial, okay? Now, I was actually, strangely, I was in the Port Jervis newspaper when I did mock trial at the Port Jervis High School, and they named me top attorney on mock trial, okay? Because I was always very good at arguing, which is why I frustrated my teachers and my parents, for that matter. But the reason I'm saying that mock trial is so special, and it, mock trial is law, right? So you're pretending to be an attorney and work in the law. And I wrote a law. I've changed laws. This is, even though I'm an orthodontist, but it prepared me for that. But that's not really my point. My point is that if you are well-reasoned as a human being, if you think well, okay, if you communicate well, you know where that comes from? It comes from being able to pre-organize before it leaves your mouth, pre-organize your thoughts so that you are saying, here are the facts, and here's my reasoning applied to those facts, okay? And if you are good at finding facts and good at applying reasoning to those facts, you become impactful with influence. And I can tell you that that was seeded in me in mock trial. And I cannot express to you how I wish my children had mock trial available to them. And that's a big plug for mock trial. And I'll also plug that it was Mr. Birmingham who ran my mock trial, and I'm so grateful to him for doing that.
Hall of Famer Birmingham.
Hall of Famer.
A lot of wisdom on his students over the years. He's a tremendous educator and again, a fan of Port Jervis. I love how you said this, impactful with influence, because you're doing that now. Again, you're not just in your office helping kids with braces, helping people with their teeth. You're making a national influence. that's got to be satisfying in a way when your head hits the pillow at night, Doc.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I have 4 kids, and one of the things I play a game with my kids, which is, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Mm.
And at different ages, the kids have different answers. Some of them wants to have, like a big slicing sword, or a big, some kind of protector, whatever. I always come back to them with, if I could have a single power, like a superpower, like a superhero power, okay, it would be the ability to affect minds. Because, like, let's say someone's coming and attacking you as a sword. I'm talking to my kids now, okay? Nathan, imagine someone's coming and attacking you with their superpower sword. You could stop them with your mind. You could say, stop. You don't really want to do that, do you? You don't really want to slice me with a sword. Now, this is a joke, right, when you're talking to kids. But actually, in our real world, since none of us have those really other major powers, how do you have the greatest impact in your world? How? The answer is influence. And influence doesn't come with anger. Influence comes with persuasion. And you persuade with good what? Good facts, good reasoning applied together. People hear you, right? So yeah, that's a big deal for me. And I realized at some point that my 2 hands treating patients' mouths is only going to be very one-to-one. But if I can influence you by writing laws that affect millions, there's 330 million people in this country that I'm trying to impact by having more funds available to them through their dental insurance for better oral health, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. Now, that's not what 2 hands can do. That's what 1 hand can do, and mind. That's cool.
That's very cool. And you're doing it, and you're making it work. Yeah, got it passed in Massachusetts. And kudos to you for chasing that passion. Kudos to you for seeing something that was wrong and not just complaining about it at a cocktail party, but doing something about it. Port pride in action. We salute you, Doc. Doc, was there anything that you wanted to talk about while we have this platform, while we have this conversation, that I didn't ask you about?
No, I think I would just reiterate, something that I touched on briefly, which is, you're not random, okay? I'm speaking not just to children. I'm talking to everyone. The science is clear. It screams it. Our world is very well organized. Our bodies are very well organized. You're not random. You're designed. And things that are designed, like a fork, is designed for what? To eat. It's designed with purpose. You're designed. And when you start to see yourself as designed, it changes your worldview. That's my message to you, okay? You are designed with purpose. Let that change your worldview, and start to see your world as, well, then what's my purpose? That's the natural next question, right? And once you start to ask yourself that question, you're going to start to serve naturally others. And you're going to start to see, being loving and serving as your purpose. That's what we're kind of built to do. So that's really the one message I would love to make sure everybody understands.
Again, beautifully said. Purpose, impact, influence. It's all going together. Really beautiful. Mr. Roman has tuned in here, and Mo, you'll like this. I was able to just get not only George Roman signed, but Brian Roman. There's my Port Jervis basketball jersey. They're both
awesome.
Your teacher, Mr. Roman, is tuning in.
Icon. Absolute icon. Yeah.
They named the softball field after him. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but well deserved. Should be.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this was great, Dr. Mo. We know we're going to keep this relationship going with you. We do want to connect you with any of our students that are looking to go into dentistry, but we almost need to connect you with our students going into law too, with the work you're doing. So
I'd be happy to.
Again, a shout out to you. We're extremely proud. Thank you for constantly referencing Port Jervis, and we're thrilled. Doc, we'll have to have you back.
My privilege, and it just comes from a place of gratitude.
Yeah, and you'd be proud of what's happening here. I know you were here in December. That new building is coming up. There's a lot of chatter about a new pool here in Port Jervis, and just our buildings, our facilities. We're getting 2 new turf fields.
Awesome.
Tremendous change is coming, and we're excited about it.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, everybody, this was Dr. again, Mouhab Rizkallah. Doc, we referenced Port Pride. This is our last question here. Give it to us. What does Port Pride mean to you?
Well, I would say if I was going to characterize Port Pride, I would say powerful grit. Okay. But when I dwell on Port Pride, it's gratitude.
Beautiful answer. I love it. He's in the headline. If you haven't seen it, he's in the headline. You can never take the Port Jervis out of me. Never. It is significant to what my current identity is. You heard that throughout this interview. Again, this is Dr. Rizkallah. Google him. Check out the stuff he's doing. A lot of information on there. A tremendous amount of awards and recognitions for the work you're doing. And we are just thrilled for you, Doc. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you, Andrew.
All right. If you know somebody else doing great work, great things, please recommend them to me for the Port Connects podcast. It is truly an honor to, again, spotlight these great things. And Dr. Rizkallah, keep up the great work, man. You are really getting it done.
Will do.
All right. We're going to sign off here on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in live, everybody. If you're watching the show on recording, you could still jump in and leave Dr. Rizkallah a comment to all of his classmates. Again, please do that. He really talked a lot about his classmates and all of that. So we're going to sign off here on the podcast. Doc, you stay on the line for a minute, okay?
I will.
All right, everyone. Go Port.